Instead of talking about players that literally everyone talks about all the time, I want to take a look at some guys who are low-key dominating. Some of these guys have been doing this for years now, and yet they normally don't get the recognition outside of their own team's fan base. They don't swarm the headlines, they don't demand attention, they don't even think of themselves as stars, yet they're legitimately playing like one. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and without further ado, here are 6 of the NBA's most low-key powerhouses. And here's why they're not getting the recognition. Bojan Bogdanovic. Besides the fact that Bogdanovic has averaged around 18 to 20 points a game in the last 5 seasons, yet nobody noticed, he's also one of the most efficient scorers in the entire league. His percentages from everywhere on the floor are outstanding. In the last 5 seasons, he recorded a 40% three-point percentage on over 6 attempts per game. He even set a Utah Jazz franchise record with 11 made threes in a single game. And he's not just a catch-and-shoot player either. A lot of the times, he creates his own jump shots. He also hits 68% of his attempts at the basket, which is great for a guy who isn't very athletic. In his 3 seasons in Utah, the team was 10th, 3rd, and 1st in offensive rating. Before he arrived, they were just a middle-of-the-pack offensive team, around 15th and 16th in the 2 seasons before that. Now, I'm not saying he was the sole cause for their offensive explosion, but he was critical to the Jazz success, and was always the 2nd or 3rd leading scorer on the team, despite getting overshadowed by Mitchell and Gobert. Heck, now, in Detroit, at the age of 33, he's having a career season, leading this team in scoring. But nobody cares about him. Everyone's paying attention to Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and the other young guys. I guess it makes sense, cause they're tanking. Everywhere Bojan's been, he's been low-key very freaking good, but his teammates are always flashier and younger. He's also never been part of any team's future, simply due to his age. Jakob Poeltl. The funny thing about going from a big market team to a small market one is that people think you literally disappeared, especially going from Toronto to San Antonio. The same thing even happened to DeMar DeRozan. When he was on the Spurs, hardly anybody paid attention to him, and he was a star. But for Poeltl, he was also in that Kawhi Leonard trade, and for the last 5 years, he's been quietly improving in San Antonio. In the last couple seasons, his role on the team increased drastically, as he's now a focal point of the offense. Hidden in the shadows under Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson, Poeltl fits seamlessly into the Spurs' game plan. They love to have big men with good court vision, who can pass the ball and run the offense if they need him to. That's what Poeltl has been doing. While his numbers are not eye-catching, 2 things stand out. Over the past 2 years, he's averaged 4 offensive rebounds a game in less than 30 minutes a night. That's insane. That's tied with Rudy Gobert for 3rd in the entire league, only behind Steven Adams and Clint Capella. He's also passing the ball more than ever. Poeltl's 3.5 assists per game is 5th among all centers. There's a lot of other numbers that are shocking when you look at it. Poeltl is 3rd in the NBA in field goal percentage, also tied with Rudy Gobert. Considering he has somewhat of a mid-range game and plays further out from the basket than Gobert, that makes his efficiency even more impressive. Of course, he has a very unassuming game. He doesn't draw attention to himself and is one of many pieces to the Spurs' well-oiled machine. However, over the years, he's blossomed into a very good player, and he deserves all the praise he can get. Bennedict Mathurin. The only rookie on this list, and I'm sure Pacers fans are ecstatic at how well he's been doing. If it wasn't for Paolo Banchero, Bennedict Mathurin has a legit chance to win both Rookie of the Year and 6th Man of the Year. He could be the first player in history to win both those awards in a single season. I mean, he probably won't, but there's still time. You never know what happens by the end of the season. He could still do it. However, all the talk on the Pacers has been centered around Tyrese Halliburton, and for a good reason too. The dude is freaking insane. He's leading the league in assists and is already a top 5 point guard at the age of 22. For Mathurin, he's averaging nearly 20 points a game off the bench, and is the team's 2nd leading scorer, and has the 2nd highest 3-point percentage on the team. He could already be starting over Buddy Hield, but this is a good way to ease him into the NBA. Eventually, he will be a starter, and eventually Buddy Hield will be gone. We're just waiting for the right time. I can see him easily averaging like 25 a game. I feel like him playing for the Pacers and coming off the bench, that's why he hasn't been noticed as much as other rookies. But the Pacers got a good one, and they're actually winning, and he's a huge reason for that. Ivica Zubac. When he first came into the NBA in 2016, nobody thought much of it. Everyone was like, hey look, it's another young big man from Eastern Europe who nobody knew about in the States. And early on with the Lakers, he barely got any playing time. However, after getting traded to the Clippers, Zubac became a full-time starter, and immediately produced. Now, among a team full of stars, Zubac established himself as one of the team's most important players. Honestly, behind Paul George and a healthy Kawhi Leonard, Zubac is the third best player on the team. He's not just one of the league's best rebounders, but defensively, he's been fantastic. He stated before the season that making the NBA All-Defensive Team is his goal for this season, and he's certainly showing he can do it. With him as the anchor, the Clippers have the third best defense in the league. Overall, his offensive game has been expanding quite well. In the last few seasons, he's had some random explosions of 30-point games. And when he does score a lot, he does it so efficiently. Zubac doesn't get too many touches besides that, and there's no offensive sets or game plan that centers around him either, which is unfortunate. I feel like whenever Zubac goes off, he really goes off. Like, he literally hits almost every shot. The Clippers never run any plays for him either, but perhaps, maybe they should. With most of their core players over 30 years old, Zubac is their only young talent who still has room to grow. He's currently 6th in the NBA in field goal percentage and 4th in rebounds a game. Like Pirtle, his game is unassuming, and some say it's a product of their offense. But if he can have games like this, there's gotta be potential for him to break out even further. Spencer Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie has seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. At one point, he didn't even know he could return to basketball after tearing his ACL, and having an abysmal run with the Wizards, he needed a change of scenery. The Porzingis trade that sent him to Dallas essentially saved his career. With the departure of Jalen Brunson, there were questions if Spencer Dinwiddie could step up and take over as the starting point guard. Well, he's done it before. Before the injuries, he was a 20-point-per-game scorer for the Nets, and now he's playing better than he's ever played before. Dinwiddie's three-point shot has improved drastically. Since he got to Dallas, actually, he's been a 40% three-point shooter. A lot of it has to do with Luka's gravity as well. It gives Dinwiddie a lot of space to operate. I still remember when the trade first happened, there were questions if he could actually play alongside Luka, or if he could even play at all after that horrific stint on the Wizards. But he transitioned into this new role quite well. He's molded himself into a great spot-up shooter, a great catch-and-shoot guy who plays off Luka very nicely. In previous years, he was seen as a ball-dominant, somewhat selfish point guard, but that reputation is pretty much gone. Plus, if you need him to run the offense, he can do that too. Dinwiddie is basically the second best player on the Mavs right now, which is, well, that's not a good thing exactly. I love Dinwiddie, but if he's the second best player on this team, there's no way the Mavs could win the title. That shouldn't take away from how well he's been playing, but it's not enough. Jeremy Grant. When Jeremy Grant signed with the Pistons back in 2020, he was given the keys to the offense. This dude went from a role player who could only catch lobs and shoot the occasional three to a legitimate first option on a team. On a bad team, but still, he was the first option. The Pistons gave him the ultimate green light, cause why the hell not? They were tanking anyway. Might as well give Grant the ball and see what he can do. What happened was, he immediately started putting up all-star caliber numbers. His scoring nearly doubled once he got to Detroit, but he also had like no help whatsoever. So he was facing double teams every night and forced up a ton of bad shots. When the Blazers acquired him, it was low-key one of the best moves in the offseason, cause they got him for so cheap. Grant's play in Detroit has transitioned over to Portland, but now that his teammates are actually threats to score, he has so much more room to dominate. On a team like the Blazers with some good offensive threats, Grant is being overlooked by opposing defenses, and he's punishing them for that. Of course, this still is Damian Lillard's team. And Grant still has a reputation of being a supporting player, a role player, like he has been for most of his career. But trust me, this guy has the talent of an all-star. He proved that in Detroit. You might think those 2 years in Detroit were wasted because the team sucked, but they were not. Grant needed to see what it feels like to be the star on a team. He's gotten used to the pressure now. And now, he's having the best year of his life. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts if there's any other low-key powerhouses you can think of. What are your thoughts on the guys in this video? Let me know in the comments. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.